I will call the December 10th meeting of the Traffic and Parking Advisory Board meeting to order. Good afternoon and welcome. The Traffic and Parking Advisory Board reviews items of interest regarding parking and traffic items. We are an advisory board, and our favorable recommendation today will go before the Oshkosh Common Council. The council can either accept or reject any recommendation from this board. If you do not agree with our decision, you can discuss that item with any council member. If the board does not recommend an item, a common council member may sponsor a new ordinance regarding that same item. All items require 2 readings before the common council. The first reading will take place on Tuesday, January 14th at 6 p.m., and you will be allowed to comment on the item at that time, though the council will take no action. On Tuesday, January 28th at 6 p.m., the item will be on a second reading, at which time the council will take action. You will again be allowed to speak. For this afternoon's meeting, I will read each agenda item, at which time, if you'd like to speak, please step to the podium and give your name and address for the record. I do ask that you keep your comments pertinent to the agenda item. The item will then come back to the board for discussion and ultimately action. Please call the roll.
Szynski?
Here.
Staple?
Here.
Weinschneider? Absent. Becker?
Here.
Christensen?
Here.
Haas?
Here.
Peschel? Absent.
First item on this afternoon's agenda is approval of minutes from prior meeting.
Move it. Second.
Anyone with comments, questions, additions, or deletions? Seeing none, please call the roll on approval of minutes.
Szynski?
Aye.
Staple?
Aye.
Becker?
Aye.
Christensen?
Present.
Haas?
Aye.
Carried.
Which brings us to the public comment section. Again, this would be for items not on this afternoon's agenda. This board has adopted a public participation policy which provides 15 minutes for general public comment on a first-come, first-served basis. Citizens must provide both name and address and may speak on matters related to traffic issues within the authority of this board. Statements should be addressed to the board members and not to city staff or other persons. Items that are on the agenda should be addressed at the time the item is read and not during this period for public comment. Statements are limited to 3 minutes, and citizens may only provide comment one time unless special permission is granted. Anyone wish to avail themselves of that opportunity? One possible, not agenda related if you want to comment. So something other? Okay. So then with that, we'll move to new business. First item, a request for no parking on MacArthur Road, south side. Current condition being no parking both sides from midnight to 7 a.m. during the months of December, January, February, and March.
All right, well, this is a citizen request, and this is MacArthur Road, so it's right off of County Road A here. So as you can see, it's a narrow road, and the request was apparently some people park in this area to gain access to the channel, which is right behind these houses over here to go fishing or whatever. And the vehicles parking here are making it difficult for residents to get to and from their residence. This road is only 18 feet wide, so generally a lane of travel is at least 10 feet. So according to the warrants we use for parking restrictions at 18 feet, generally in a road that's 17 to 24 feet, we do restrict parking on one side. So I looked at this, and I think, with it only being 18 feet wide, it would make sense if we restrict parking to restrict it to the farm field side. And then that's where there's a fire hydrant down here as well. I guess I've got a couple comments on it through the original request came through C-Click-Fix. And I guess I can see the justification for restricting parking to one side. One person said, the caveat is, I don't think anybody's going down here unless they live in this area. So, it would limit the parking for people that live in this area to one side of the road. One person had requested that it only go as far as Cozy Lane, which I believe is this first street here. However, that's not going to help if you need to get further back into here. So that was one request. And then another person just said, yeah, it makes sense. However, they had some concerns with, I guess the residents mow this little area here. But I don't know that that would matter one way or another. But I think we do have one of the citizens here to speak on it.
While we're looking at the map, Jim, can you rotate?
Yep.
Counterclockwise? So there's just one house between County A and Cozy Lane.
Yep. And I do believe, so there was some dialogue about vehicles parking. I assume they're parking over here to get access to the channel, but that's not really public access. But then also, I guess there's like a marina back over one road over this way that some people come down this road thinking they can get there, but you can't get there from here. So that adds a little bit of traffic as well. But I guess from my perspective, it is a really narrow road, so it would be hard to travel if there were cars parked on one side, let alone both sides.
This would be your opportunity to comment if, yep, to the podium with your name and address.
I'm Kelsey Anderson. I reside at 1050 Birch Lane, so just a little ways away from there. I was the one who actually brought the issue up to you guys. I guess I would also support the comment of having it just a Cozy Lane, and then add, in addition to having it on both sides of the road. Because I've seen where people actually do park on their side where the house is, and he actually, in fact, he puts his own no parking signs up because people will go on his grass. So I think he even put his no trespassing signs up too, because they'll walk across his grass. And then normally people park there to fish, and then they go and stand on A and fish right in the end. Like right that little easement going up, they'll stand there. But I guess in my opinion, it should be just from A to Cozy on both sides of the street.
Yeah, my only issue with that is then how it would affect this one house if they had, visitors or something that would really restrict their parking. But I don't know. We did notice everybody in this area, but obviously we haven't. I've only heard from one person suggesting that just go to Cozy Lane, and then obviously we've had some dialogue. But okay, I was kind of wondering where they were going to fish because I know he does have no trespassing signs in this area. So
Yeah.
they're going up to the County Road A. Okay.
Normally up until he puts those signs up, people will stand on his property on the very end. And then when he puts that up, then they kind of merge to literally right off of A, which I think is dangerous too, but that's another subject.
Yeah. That's probably not the best area to stand.
Wouldn't think somebody would stand on somebody else's lawn to fish. I don't.
I'm assuming that, yeah, this is probably, like you said, this was probably right away possibly where the fire hydrant for maybe a few feet. But yeah, and then they probably stand on here.
Is that legal to stand there and fish? I know the bridges in the city are all posted, no fishing. It's like a culvert or.
I have no idea. I don't know. Do you know, Mike? I would be okay with it only going to Cozy Lane since that's the only two comments I've received. I would be a little concerned if it was both sides, just because, like I said, that would really restrict this person's parking. But he does have a big driveway. I doubt that.
That business at the end of Cozy Lane, that's, what's it? I'm blanking. They do HVAC, heating and cooling, and they also have a boat, Merton Marines. So they do get some traffic back and forth through there for their business.
So I guess, so you're saying that really the only issue with the parking is this area here then?
In my opinion, yeah.
Here- Basically here to Cozy Lanes. But like I said, back here, I'm assuming that anybody that parks back there is either going to be a resident or a visitor, because I don't really see any other reason why you would be back there.
Even if fishermen do park further back, it might help because I guess I found, because sometimes I've had to sit on A with my blinker on because there's a car and then there's another car waiting to exit MacArthur onto A, so there's no room for a third vehicle to pass. So maybe if even the fishermen parked further back, it at least lets us get access freely without the blocking. But
Okay. The item's been moved. I need a second before we can.
Second.
Anyone have any comments or questions?
This is restricting parking on the one side.
Yep.
Field side,
Yeah, the proposal's restricting it on the field side, which
For
is
its
south
length.
side, for the whole length. Yeah.
Okay.
Which I could support that because, like I said, it's only 18 feet wide. However, if the citizens think the issue's only to Cozy Lane, I could go, I'd be okay with either one.
Okay. I'd like to amend it to only go as far as Cozy Lane instead of the whole length.
Second.
Discussion on the item as amended. No one? Then I will call the roll on the amendment.
Szynski,
Aye.
Staple,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
carried. 5-0.
The amended item. Does anyone now have any questions or comments on the newly amended item? Seeing none, I will call the roll on the amended item.
Szynski,
Aye.
Staple,
Aye.
Becker,
Aye.
Christensen,
Aye.
Haas,
Aye.
carried.
Brings us to Agenda 2, a request for no parking on 3rd Avenue south side from Ohio Street to 920 feet west and north side from Ohio Street to Idaho Street. Current condition, no parking restriction.
All right, this is a request from the Department of Public Works. The issue they're having is cars have begun parking, right? So here's their entrance and exit to the Public Works garage, and they're having an issue with vehicles parking basically from this area to this area. And with the plows and large dump trucks coming in and out of here, they're having a hard time navigating around the cars here. So they're asking that we restrict parking in this area. And when I look at it, it basically, there's really not any good area to park from Ohio Street down there. The only area that, I've seen a couple cars park here, but they're university employees and they have basically all this area here to park and this area over here. So I don't really think that they necessarily need to park there. That's probably just convenient. And then on this, and the street is 28 feet wide. So according to, again, our guidelines, it's a valid petition to restrict parking. So my thought was to restrict parking on the south side from Ohio Street to just past the entrance to the Public Works garage, which is approximately in this area here. And then allow parking from there on the south side, and then restrict parking on the north, or the north side. So the whole stretch on the north side, restrict parking, and then restrict parking on the south side from Ohio Street to right about here. And I didn't receive any feedback other than, obviously Public Works would appreciate that so they can get their vehicles in and out both ways. And then I did hear from Bernie Pitts, who I believe, he said he owns, I think this lot and that lot. And he basically said as long as it's not affecting his property, he didn't really care. So that's the only feedback I received. He's not sure what he's gonna do with these lots, I guess.
We're just vacant lots.
Yeah. And by leaving some parking, I figure on this side too, if there's any, customers or that need to go into the water distribution facility here, at least it gives them some parking along here and here. Or if anybody's at the storage facility, they'll still have you know, there's still plenty of parking over here. And I think it'll reduce the chance that, one of the plows or dump trucks will have a mishap.
Need a second?
Second.
Right. Anyone with any comments, questions as it relates to Agenda 2? Seems pretty simple and straightforward for a good cause. Nothing, I will call the roll on Agenda 2.
Kuzinski.
Aye.
Staple.
Aye.
Becker.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Oz.
Aye.
Carried 5-0.
Brings us to staff statements.
Tomorrow evening, so the Jackson Street, well, just a little background. So the city had hired a consultant to do a Jackson Street safety study from Church to Murdoch. So they're going to study traffic in that area and the safety of traffic in that area, see if there's any things that can be done to mitigate the impact of traffic on the neighborhood there. And then they're also going to do basically a traditional corridor plan from Murdoch into Highway 41. So they did some preliminary work as far as traffic counts, speed study. So they're going to be tomorrow meeting with some of the stakeholders throughout the day. They have a couple groups of stakeholders that they're meeting with. And then they're having a public input meeting tomorrow night at 6 p.m. at Oak Lawn Elementary School, if anybody can make it to that. They're just wanting to gather input from the public and other interested parties on that corridor to use in their study as they go forward. So that's an opportunity for anyone who would like to come to that. Again, 6 p.m. tomorrow evening till 7:30. I think the Herald mispublished it. I think it said 6:30 when I saw it in the Herald, but it's at 6 until 7:30 tomorrow at Oak Lawn. So anybody that's interested in that or wants to give input is invited to that meeting tomorrow evening.
Thank you.
Other than that, the bridge, so the Congress Avenue Bridge is scheduled for closure. They haven't given us an exact date yet, but it's mid-January. So they just let the contract, which means they awarded it to the contractor, I believe, about a week and a half ago. So they're working with the contractor. Once they get them the schedule, then we'll start publicizing that more. But again, just be aware that the bridge will be closed for approximately 6 months. And the first 3 months or so, they're going to have it closed to vehicles and boats, I believe. And then when the navigation season opens towards the end of April, they'll open it to boats. However, it'll still be closed to vehicles until approximately June. So start planning ahead, planning alternate routes. As we noticed the last time they did a temporary week, it was a week and a half closure. Traffic really got congested on Wisconsin Avenue Bridge and throughout the university areas. People were trying to find alternate routes. So we'll get that message out on public media. They'll be publicizing it at the council meetings and getting it out as much as we can so people can plan accordingly. And then finally, as Marlene mentioned before, so this is her last meeting, so she's retiring in January 4th. So we thank her for her work with this board as well as everything else she does for our department. But I wanted everybody to know that this is her last meeting for traffic review.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been wonderful.
Which then brings us to any future agenda items. Is there anyone that wishes something be on a future agenda? Again, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.